right, guys, so we got to talk about a fascinating exchange that happened on Bill Maher's show between Representative Katie Porter from California and Piers Morgan, okay, as they debated about a couple things I want to react to. The first of which is about Riley Gaines and her activism. Now, if you guys don't know who Riley Gaines is, we cover her on my channel a lot. She's probably the bravest woman in this country right now, okay? Because she's standing up to the mob, basically single-handedly, to try to save women's sports that is currently on a trajectory to be taken over by men, right? Men who believe that they are women that want to compete amongst women so that they can win medals that they would never win if they competed among men, okay? Basically the same biological sex. So Katie Porter here is going to take a shot at Riley Gaines in her activism, accusing Riley Gaines of basically trying to save women's sports and standing up for women's rights just to get likes, right? To get likes on social media. And Piers Morgan is having none of it, right? He's having none of it, and he's going to bring the facts to the conversation about why Riley Gaines is doing this and why she's doing the right thing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Nobody, including Riley Gaines, who I disagree with strongly, should feel
What do you disagree with, out of interest?
I think that it should be up to sporting bodies to make the decisions about who
But
and
what
how
has she
should
said
compete.
that's actually wrong?
I think that what she has done is try to turn this. We talked about people, using things to kind of get likes and get clicks.
That's not what she's doing.
This is not what she's doing, okay? I mean, this is the last thing she should be doing to get likes and clicks, because if you want to get likes and clicks in 2023, you actually should agree with the mob, right? You go along with the wokes, right? You become woke to get clicks and likes. Going against the mob actually is a danger to your life, right? I mean, again, if you don't believe me, look what happened to Riley Gaines, okay? She got ambushed, almost kidnapped, held against her will as a hostage by a bunch of trans activists simply because she spoke at a university about women's rights in sports. Yeah, I mean, Katie Porter here is just ignorant, right? She's just extremely ignorant. But again, Democrats are on board with the far left agenda. This is what they agree with, okay? They all agree with it.
I've got no truck for Riley Gaines personally, but all I've seen her do is stand up for women's rights to fairness and equality.
Well,
She actually competed against Leah Thomas, and it was obviously unfair. Leah Thomas won one of the races in the NCAA championships by 50 seconds against a bunch of biological females who simply couldn't keep up. That cannot be right. It cannot be fair.
That is something
that she really don't want to talk about, right? She don't want to acknowledge these facts because she doesn't want to be called transphobic, right? Again, a reasonable person, a reasonable Democrat, which there are no reasonable Democrats anymore, so it seems, would just be like, yeah, you're right, right? You're right. We should actually be standing up to this new form of, patriarchy, right? When it comes to men wanting to be women and competing among women and dominating women's spaces. But, again, the mob and being accused of being transphobic is something that these people are scared to death of.
That I think our sporting bodies should be dealing with. And by the way, Riley is speaking up for herself, and that is her prerogative, and I respect her free speech.
I think she's speaking up for pretty much every female athlete in the world.
Facts, because they can't speak up for themselves. Again, we know what happens when they speak up for themselves. Okay, they lose their livelihoods. They get threatened. Okay, because the left-wing mob is so violent.
I mean, wasn't that the point of Title IX? Title IX in the early 70s was something that was it was a major event in feminism, that we finally have this law that says at colleges, right, and I think high schools too, but definitely colleges, women's sports have to be given equal to men's sports so that women aren't getting, and this led to the WNBA and lots of other stuff. This seems to be the opposite of that. It seems to be so many instances, I think, where wokeness is the opposite of what I grew up as liberalism. Liberalism was, let's give the women an equal shot. This is let's put a male in the swimming pool with the women. I don't get it.
It's crazy. And meanwhile, trans people who genuinely want to compete at athletics and swimming or whatever it may be, they're the ones who are suffering here. They need to be found a way to compete fairly and justly.
Well, what's your answer then?
I think there's one or two answers. I think they either compete against their biological sex, as many of them did before, or you create an entirely new category for transgender athletes.
Facts. Facts. The answer is there. It's just Democrats don't want to acknowledge it because, again, that's transphobic, okay? I mean, common sense, right? It's just common sense.
And then they're able to compete fairly. But what you cannot do is continue to allow more and more trans athletes to start decimating women's records, in some cases, irrevocably.
Yeah. Facts. He's 100% correct, okay? 100% correct. Again, it's amazing that this woman, or allegedly a woman, we really don't know these Democrats, this alleged woman here is totally fine with men taking away everything that they fought for, right? Which, again, I'm not necessarily on the feminist train, but at the same time, you know, I actually tweeted this out. If I had to choose a side, I would much rather side with the radical feminists than the radical transgender mob, okay? Because I like women as women, right? Even if they're crazy, right? Even if they're feminists, I still like women, right? Now, I'd much rather my women be women than women be men, okay? I don't want my women with penises, right? So I'm going to side with the radical feminists, right? When it comes to their beef with, you know, the transgender activists, right? And so I want to respond to another clip from this same show in which they talk about January 6th and Piers Morgan comparing the January 6th protest to the protest or the insurrection that happened in Tennessee among the Tennessee lawmakers. Katie Porter here is going to get triggered by Piers Morgan basically making that comparison. But before I get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. The second and third largest bank runs in history happened last month. And the federal government is taking steps to secure all deposits because, you know, the Biden administration, the last thing they want is another banking crisis under his administration coming up before the election. And you know what that means? The Democrats love to spin their way out of any problem, which means more money printing. Thousands have approached Noble Gold Investments to secure their wealth with gold. Gold is the most stable asset outside of government control. Hurry and go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth and get a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin if you qualify. noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. But remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
Know what we think here on the panel. What does the panel make of the two Tennessee lawmakers who were expelled from the state legislature? Oh, that was a big story this week. We didn't get to it. Yes, they were protesting because there was a shooting there. They wanted, I think I agree with what they were saying is we need better gun control laws. But these are legislators, and they used a bullhorn inside the well of the Senate of Tennessee, was it? This is state legislature. Yeah.
And interrupted the proceedings, which, of course, when that happened on January the 6th, in a much larger and more violent way, all the people currently cheering on the two Tennessee legislators were the ones who would have been condemning and castigating what happened on January the 6th. Well,
Facts. Facts. Piers Morgan is 100% right. Okay, what they told us about January 6th. Why was January 6th so bad? Because this is the justification they use for locking up peaceful people, right? People who wandered into the Capitol and in some cases got a tour of the Capitol by police officers, right? They were peacefully in the Capitol. They justify locking these people up, okay, taking away their civil rights and liberties, right? Because they technically interrupted an official proceeding, right? Which is the exact same thing that these Democrats did. Okay, this is the exact same thing that these Democrats did down in Tennessee. Now, all of a sudden, though, it's not an insurrection. Oh, my God, it's unfair that they got expelled from Congress. It's racism. When they literally did the exact same thing, right? They did the main crime that the January 6th protesters were accused of, which is interrupting and disrupting an official proceeding. The Tennessee Democrats did the exact same thing, right? But, it's okay when the left do it, right? It's okay when the left do it.
Not actually comparing.
No,
yeah, that's crazy.
You actually did just compare.
No, here's what I'm comparing. When you have a mob of protesters and they're going into a legislative chamber, whether it's at the Capitol or whether it's in Tennessee, the principle's the same. And if you don't have the same principle response to both of those things, regardless of scale, then you're not principled.
Facts. Again, Piers Morgan, I don't necessarily agree with the dude on everything, but I will say he is grounded in reality, right? I do agree with a lot of things he says. He's right. It is about principle, right? If you were upset about what happened on January 6th, you should be upset about what happened in the Tennessee Capitol, right? You should be upset about both. Both of those things, right, are wrong, okay? If you're actual principle. But again, Democrats don't have principles. It's about we agree with whatever our side does, regardless of what it is, and we disagree with whatever the other side does, regardless of what it is, right? Again, do you think these people would not be calling an insurrection had that been Republicans that did what the Democrats did down in Tennessee? How do you think Democrats would have reacted? They would have lost their mind. They would have said, this is January 6th part 2, right? This is January 6th part 2. That's exactly what they would have said.
Listen, the principle is different. They were Tennessee legislators.
Which makes it even worse, right? There were no legislators that was doing this on January 6th, right? So again, what happened in Tennessee is even worse because these were actual lawmakers that were involved. Not just regular people off the street. These were lawmakers. So again, it's even worse.
Who went into the chamber and admittedly broke the rules of decorum, partly because they were being silenced when they wanted to talk following the rules of decorum.
Well, you can't talk all day, bro. Right? You can't talk all day. Okay? You can't talk all day.
About gun violence prevention. What happened on January 6th was a bunch of batshit crazy with guns who killed police people.
Again, lie. Right? Again, how does CNN, because again, technically this is CNN now, right? How does CNN allow these lies to be spewed on their network about police officers being killed by January 6th protesters? Again, Democrats are still spewing this lie, and they never get fact-checked. They never get corrected on this lie that they continue to push about what happened on January 6th. It's really shameful.
Piers, that is not the same.
No, but Katie, I, like Bill, I agree with what the legislators who were doing the protesting, I agree with them about guns. Everyone knows, I think, in fact, that's why I left CNN. It's nice to be back, by the way, on CNN. I agree with them. Thank you.
That's right.
It's been a while. The last time I was on CNN, I was talking about guns. But thank you, Bill. This will probably get me fired all over again. But I just think in the end, you've got to be consistent about the way you view.
But that is a terrible analogy.
Well, they're not the same thing. But the principle
then why
is the
bring
same.
it up? That's a terrible analogy.
A mob of people going in to stop democratic proceedings is not democracy, whether you're on the right or left.
Okay.
The principle is, I don't think a mob of protesters should go into a legislative building like that and stop the proceedings.
Okay, they should. I agree with.
They were a mob. The two guys were a mob.
No, all the other protesters.
Other people.
No, but here's the thing. These guys are legislators. What I would say to them is, look, I admire your passion. I'm admire that young people your age are in government. I think that's good that you want to be in government and not just oblivious to it. And the issue, okay, we have a valid point, but you're in the legislature now. The legislature. Yeah. You don't need the bullhorn. That's for when you're out on the street. You have to modulate. This is what they do on college campuses. We just stop you from talking if we disagree with a bullhorn or shouting. They have to leave that behind. Now you're inside. You're in the building. You got elected. The way to affect change is write a law, do it that way. But the bullhorn was
well.
I
think you have a point.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Piers Morgan in that situation, again, I think he's right, even though I disagree with him on the gun thing. But, again, it's crazy how these Democrats are not even close to being in reality, okay? They're totally fine with men taking over women's sports, right? They're totally okay with that. And then when it comes to actual insurrections, okay, when it comes to what they set the precedent for, again, which is defining any interruption of an official proceeding at a Capitol by a mob as an insurrection, all of a sudden they want to cry foul when the pendulum swings the other way, when Democrats get punished for doing something that they claimed was so bad, right? Again, it's amazing how that works. Why in the world is a British guy, right, a British guy more reasonable when it comes to American politics than the Democrats, right? It just goes to show you guys just how insane the Democrat Party has become in this country. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.